Hello, I am Neil Gardner, and welcome to Gate Comments. The subject today is Groton Town Government. The time of fiscal reckoning has arrived for the town of Groton. We have a large loss of revenue with no end in sight. Now is the time to cut spending. If not now, when? The status quo of ever-increasing budgets cannot continue. When I say cut spending, I mean this year. The cuts to the budget need to be the same amount as the loss of revenue, with a zero increase in the tax rate and the mill rate. Does anybody remember the last time the budget has been lower than the preceding year? This has never happened. It needs to start happening this year. The taxpayers will not continue to make up the difference with ever-increasing tax hikes. There are a lot of things wrong with town government. I served on the RTM the previous 2 years and was very disappointed to see members who are supposed to work for the taxpayers who put them in office more concerned with maintaining the status quo of making sure that the town employees and town operations always get what they want. Last year, for example, the town council attempted to make spending cuts in certain areas of the budget that would have reduced the budget. I did not agree with some of the areas where reductions were made. However, I did support their efforts by voting for all of their spending reductions. Common sense told me that it was better to get an overall budget reduction than to quibble about specific line items. These so-called cuts were actually reductions in the increase. In other words, the budget was going up, just not at the rate it would have gone up. That was not good enough for a majority of RTM members. They voted to put almost all the increases back in. Many of these members were town employees, spouses of employees, and retirees, not to mention people who have served too many terms. Other things that surprised me when I was on the RTM were how many town employees, spouses of town employees, teachers, and town retirees serve on the RTM. This is a huge conflict of interest. All of these people receive a paycheck, health benefits, or pension benefits from the town, and they are voting on these items. Taxpayers should not put up with this. These people need to go. While on the RTM, I served on the Rules and Public Works committees. On the Rules Committee, I fought hard to get a rule passed so that these people could not vote on budget items that were directly in conflict with the benefits they receive. The rule was passed in committee and on the floor of the RTM. Then, when it came time to vote on the budget items in question, some members called for these people to recuse themselves. They did not, and they were defended, saying that it was not a conflict of interest by 3 members of the Rules Committee, including the chairman of the committee. There are many multiple-term members who have served longer than they should. I have asked these people, if they keep raising taxes, how are people going to be able to afford to pay them? And the response I got was, too bad. If they can't afford it, they need to move. This is not the attitude we need from our elected officials. They work for us. They need to show respect to the people who pay for everything. This town needs a charter revision. The system is stacked against the taxpayer. How can we have town employees, spouses of town employees, and retirees voting on budget items, but we are not allowing part-time residents who pay huge amounts in taxes to vote on candidates and referendums? This is un-American. We fought a revolution against taxation without representation. In 2014, this is happening in Groton, and it is wrong. We now have several new members of the Town Council, Board of Ed, and RTM. We at GATE endorsed several of these new members. I am hopeful that these elected officials will realize the taxpayers cannot afford any tax increase. The economy has not been good the past 5 years, and it has been worse in the state of Connecticut. Other states have fared better, but in high tax, highly regulated, liberal Connecticut, we are losing jobs and population. Groton would be compounding the problem by raising taxes again. Groton needs to be the tax haven in the state. We may be able to attract other businesses from around the state if we do this. The town council needs to look at contracting out some services. Start on a small scale with 2 or 3 items. See if we are saving money. And if we are contracting out more services, we also need to look at pension reform. This is a never-ending, continually growing cost. The town needs to go to a 401k program. The taxpayers do not need to be held hostage by public sector unions. It is time to take these unions on. Why should we, the taxpayers, put up with public sector employees retiring at 55, moving south, where taxes are much cheaper, and collecting a taxpayer-funded pension for the next 30 to 40 years? It's obvious they don't want to pay these high taxes, so they move, but yet we should keep paying them. I don't think so. I chose to move to this town, and I would like to stay here. However, I have a job where I could live just about anywhere. Does the town want to drive me out and many other people like me? Does the town think that we will increase revenue by less and less taxpayers living here? Keep raising taxes and you will see more people leaving, which means less revenue. This is what happened in Detroit and other cities. Believe me, it can happen here. One other thing I would like to mention is this crazy idea of putting a community garden on the grounds of the old Noank School. This is a ridiculous idea. This property belongs to the taxpayers, and if it is not going to be used as a school, it needs to be sold to a developer for the going market rate. The proceeds need to go into the general fund, and then it can generate tax revenue. We cannot afford a community garden. Somehow the residents of Noank think they have the right to this land. Put your money where your mouth is. If you want a community garden, buy the land with private funds, no federal or state grants. The last time I checked, federal and state money is taxpayer money. All of it confiscated from the taxpayer. In closing, I would like to let everyone know that we at GATE care about this town. We are invested in this town. However, we are at a crossroads. The increasing taxing and spending cannot continue. This must be the year it stops. To those who disagree, we have done it your way all of these many years, and it has not led to prosperity. The voters sent a message last November by defeating the 2 referendums and voting out several long-serving elected officials. Now is the time to do the right thing. Thank you. And remember to open the gate to transparency.